I'm here today for the third edition of Art Tea Time. For today's video, I'm gonna talk about Ophelia, who is a character from Hamlet, a play, a Shakespearean play. I'm just gonna scrape the surface around that character. So if you want to get deeper knowledge about everything I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna try to insert some names and some links of videos you can find about Ophelia and the other things I'm gonna talk about here, about the paintings and stuff. I'll put them in the description box if you are curious. If you don't know about Hamlet, I don't want to give away any spoilers to you guys, so if you're sure that you want to watch the movies or read the play sometime or another, don't watch my video because I'm gonna talk about major events related to Ophelia. Or just if you don't care about what happens and about the events of the play, in the play, you can watch my video. The tea of the day is from Pre-Raphaelitism. It's the Hamlet tea. It's a green tea with fruits in it, flowers. I'll insert the notes, the ingredients. My cat is losing his hair, like handful quantities of hair. My poor trousers are gonna be all black, covered in hair. I don't have a brush, so I have to buy one. Okay, let's start with the first meanings of the name Ophelia and its etymology. From what I've seen, the name Ophelia is said to have Greek origins, ancient Greek origins. It stands for aid, help, benefit. The name was rarely used before the Middle Ages and Renaissance. Apparently, the name Ophelia was first used in a work of art in 1480 by Jacopo Sannazaro in the poetry collection Artchitchat. I couldn't find anything with a free access, unfortunately. 2 centuries after that, William Shakespeare uses the name Ophelia for one of his main characters in the play Hamlet. If you're not familiar with Shakespeare, he's known for his tragedies. He's also done like comedies, but he's widely known for the most tragic plays. So now at that point we have Sanzaro's Ophelia and Shakespeare's one. We can't really put a face on that name as there's not really been a painting of her or a sculpture of depicting like an Ophelia. So it's quite of a mysterious name. That's like the starting point to the myth and to interpretations of what she could look like, of what an Ophelia could look like. For the last couple of decades, the name has gained popularity for sure, alongside with all the other names like Gabriel, Noah, Charlotte, all those names like that sound a bit classical and they do sound a bit fancy and a bit ancient, airy, bougie. In 2022, the name Ophelia had like risen to the top 100 of names given to baby girls. So now, why has Ophelia gained so much popularity in the past decades? We'll see that later in the video. But if we could summarize everything, could say that the myth has gradually built up. There's an axe on the floor. My god. I don't know where they come from. It's not the first one that I see. Ophelia has gained popularity surely thanks to the original play of Shakespeare. But wait. When I'm talking about an original play, it's not really what I mean inside, because I've seen in uni that Shakespeare actually took inspiration from books he read I also learned that it did not really invent a language. He took inspiration again from what he could hear around him in London. I think he spent a lot of time in London, or at least where he lived. He bathed in different languages from different cultures. So yeah, it's not really a new language that he created in his plays. He just basically copied what he could hear and mixed everything up, and said that he created a new language. I'm not a sucker for Shakespeare because he has so much credit, even though he's like copied a lot of things and just took inspiration from many things. I have to admit though, his way of writing the plays is still impressive, and he surely has his own creative way of writing things, but the source of his stories is not original. He's just gotten the ideas from what he heard, what he read. So yeah, parenthesis closed. Now for the second part, I wanted to talk about Hamlet a bit more, as it is the big thing in which Ophelia appeared, and it's because of that play that Ophelia was put under the spotlight, I guess. It was the first memorable appearance of an Ophelia, even though before there had been like an Ophelia mentioned in the poetry collection that I talked about. So Shakespeare was really fond of historical stories and tragic stories, and Hamlet really is one of his most noticeable works, remarkable works. The play was said to be written around the 1600s. So what is the play about? It's about Hamlet, the son of the king of Denmark. Yeah, that's right. And that king recently passed away, but what he learns is that his father, the king, might have been murdered by his brother, and he learns that from the very ghost of his own father himself. The king's brother, the recently deceased king's brother, is now the king. So the whole thing is basically about Hamlet trying to get revenge and just turning crazy, go mad, go crazy. Just as other Shakespearean plays, there are other characters mingled in all that mess. Royal characters and servants. Ophelia is one of those characters. She's the daughter of Polonius. I can't remember who Polonius is. She's the daughter of Polonius and is very much attracted to Hamlet. She's very well behaved, she has manners, she's elegant. Now at some point, while Hamlet is seeking for revenge, he mistakenly kills the father of Ophelia, if I'm right. Not sure. By mistake, he kills the father of Ophelia, so Ophelia goes mad. That's when she delivers powerful monologues. She's descending into deep madness. That's understandable because the love of her life just killed her father. So that's a valuable reason to descend into madness. At some point she appears in a scene with flowers and herbs, and those flowers and herbs have meanings behind them. We don't really witness her death. It's told by someone else. She reports that Ophelia might have drowned in the river. She would have climbed on a willow tree and the branch cracked, so she fell into the river and drowned. willow trees are associated with grief and mourning. So it might be an echo to Ophelia's death, or just to the fact that she's mourning what Hamlet used to be when they first met each other, because I'm sure that they've known each other for a long time, even before his father's death. However, later on we hear some rumours that she might have killed herself, and not just by accident falling into the river. Let's be honest, it's not really a very feminist depiction of a woman. She went mad because of a boy. She only lived in the shadow of this boy, and we don't really know much more about that Ophelia, apart from the fact that she very much likes Hamlet. Now that I've tackled the OG Ophelia, when I was writing that video script, I've come upon plenty of paintings with just Ophelia as the main event on the paintings. Most of the frames that chose her as the main subject were from the Pre-Raphaelite times. From what I could see, she was often portrayed in natural environments, with plants, with the flowers, sometimes with the willow tree that is mentioned in Hamlet. And as for her stance, her position, she's often drowning or on the verge of drowning. Sometimes she's standing or sitting, but that's rare. She's much more painted on the river. It just seems like she's floating on some paintings. Another recurrent thing throughout the paintings is that she's a beautiful woman. She's quite young, she has long hair, she's delicate looking, she sticks to the period's criteria of beauty for sure. The most famous painting of Ophelia was said to have been painted in 1851 or 1852, and it was painted by John Everett Millers. A similar one is Friedrich Hayes's frame, and it was painted in the 1920s, and there were several other artworks of that kind. But one artist definitely was fascinated by that subject, and it was John William Waterhouse. I'm just looking at the names because I don't want to make mistakes. He's done a couple of paintings with Ophelia as the main subject of the frame. Sometimes Waterhouse chose to paint her standing, walking, laying down, in all angles. Now let's leave paintings behind and let's talk a bit about movies, because she's impacted movies for sure. There's like a series even. I'm not really sure that all those movies and series stick to the traditional Ophelia, like the woman who was in love with a man and who went mad and who had a tragic ending. But in any case, the name Ophelia it's got success. There's some sort of silver lining in between all those works. From what I could see, it's that character Ophelia has kept this sort of airy interpretation, and it's like the woman of fantasies and the woman of dreams, a dreamy woman in some sort. She's graceful, she's the subject of attention and desires. There's been various adaptations of Hamlet. So one when I was in high school, it was Kenneth Branagh's one. She was played by Kate Winslet. I guess that she's quite good at playing that sort of characters, because in Titanic she's Rose, a woman who breaks free from a boring relationship and she falls in love with a more modest guy, but the end is still a bit tragic. Kenneth Branagh's movie is not like a modern adaptation because the decor is odd looking, there are costumes, there really was effort put into that movie. I don't really know if it is really true to the original play, but it wants to respect the most of it. It's quite long, so if you are motivated to watch the movie, be prepared, be mentally prepared. It's a really long one. There really are grandiose moments in it, and there are famous actors in the casting. Now let's take a step back and try to think about why Ophelia has imprinted so many minds and why it is so famous today. Because as I've said quickly, it's impacted painters at the time, it's impacted movies and series in some way. On a global note, what could have made that name so impactful? I'd say that Ophelia as a figure, without the physical interpretation behind it, it has always inspired grace. She's always inspired mystical femininity, if I could say that. I think that in some way the fact that there wasn't a precise physical description of Ophelia in Shakespeare's play initiated different interpretations and has allowed people to let their imagination do the work. It's just a thought, but it's quite similar to the psychology behind the goddesses and the gods, because the myths don't really give physical descriptions of those gods and goddesses. I don't know what it does to people's minds, but it sparkles something in their imaginations, and it excites people in some way. There should be some psychological mechanism behind all that. As I explained earlier, the first centuries after the most memorable appearance of an Ophelia in Shakespeare's play, her depictions were a bit conventional and stick to the beauty standards. Again, as I said earlier, it was like the white woman with the long hair, with the slim silhouette, with grace and elegance. But now in the recent works, like in the movies or in the series, Ophelia has acquired a bit of a more open-minded definition, so that's great. And it's a name that is pleasant to the ear. It sounds poetical and classical, and it's gained a bit of prestige. Now, a side note, there's a Lumineers song entitled Ophelia, but it's not really has something to do with the OG Ophelia of Shakespeare's play. My back is hurting. Oh my god, I'm only 26 and my back hurts. So that's it for today's video. As you could tell, it was a bit vague. Hopefully you still learned things about Ophelia if you've never heard of Hamlet, for instance. I hope that you've learned things, even though I'm not a connoisseur and I'm not claiming to be a channel that deep dives into topics. I just wanted to give you a global view of the Ophelia matter, if I may say so. I'm gonna finish drinking my tea. I should have taken that infuser away off the ball because it's probably too infused now and a bit strong for my liking. So that's it for today. I wish you a great end of the day, a great night, a great week, and I'll see you in a future video. Goodbye.